Good morning. It's another beautiful day in New York City. And what's happening in our world? Not a hell of a lot, and it should be. It's interesting. The more I read, the more I understand humanity. We haven't changed. Man's the same. What's changed? We've got new technology, that's true, and there's a battle for whether or not technology will supplant human beings. Up to me, that's never going to happen. You get laws in place, human beings are safer. You don't put the laws in place, then you got to wonder, why do we have legislators? Or why do we have judges? Or why do we have government? And yet government is supposed to be the highest form of intellect that we can have. Doesn't look that way from what we've nominated. What are they tackling? All over the globe, climate extremes are occurring. I read about the Arctic losing ice. I recently read New York City is sinking under the weight of our skyscrapers. And if you look at our new skyscrapers, you can only look in dismay and kind of horror. There are these spindly looking structures going up as high as the eye can see. Nobody wants to purchase them. And they're just a place to park people's money. People who don't even contribute to the upkeep of New York City because they're not taxed. You got an apartment here in New York City that's $25 million and up. You're not paying taxes. So of course our tax base is lower. There are so many ways we can generate revenue and actually fix our roads, our infrastructure, and our sinking island. Are we doing it? No. Why? Because man's the same. Maimonides talked about man and said, given the idea that you would have a king or a ruler, that ruler's got to write rules for themselves first to live by. Anyone doing that? Not if they can help it. And then you have to have the rules of precedent that you can follow. Well, we're kind of not paying attention. And so a lot of venality is taking place, a lot of corruption. One thing that's not happening here, in spite of the fact that folks would like to point to an increase in crime, that's not really happening in New York City. You're seeing the mass murders in the red states that don't have any control over the guns. That's where the mass murders are. Look in Texas. Look in other states. Don't look in New York City. We really are indeed a melting pot. And most of our folks get along. And most of our folks are really polite to each other. I don't know if that's happening in other areas. Ron DeSantis, who has delusions of grandeur of running for the presidency, well, he's just picked one battle too many with Disney. Disney was going to bring 2,000 high-level jobs, $120,000 each, to Florida. But then Ron DeSantis said the biggest issue for him was he doesn't want to talk about the LGBTQ community. They're all over Miami. Why they stay, I have no idea. But they'll leave, I'm sure, along with a lot of other folks. And Disney has just said, enough is enough. course, they'll still be building in Disney World. However, the big bucks and the money will remain in California. And I'm sure that a lot of people will be happy that this is happening. Where else are our legislators overstepping their bounds? Well, looks like CNN is trying to make up for what's happened with the town hall meeting and the backlash that they've gotten over Donald Trump. So now they're going to become part of the group that hopes that Donald Trump will be indicted on the misuse of top secret and classified documents. We'll see. Is this just another gimmick for more eyeballs, just like Fox used when they knew that they told lies about voting fraud and Dominion or other issues that they've lied about knowingly just so they could increase their ratings? Who knows? What are the legislators doing? Not much. They can. They can do a hell of a lot. We've got Section 230 of the Communications Decency Law hanging out there since the 90s. It allows social media to have absolute control over the content. You can't even sue social media platforms. They tried on a terrorist case to bring it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court rightly said, this is not our purview. Though there may be a case here, it's up to Congress to codify new laws for Section 230 of the FCC Communications Decency Act. Is Congress going to do it? Doesn't look like it. They just want to scrap the act entirely. They're behind the times. The European Union and Great Britain, they've got laws in place, the GDPRs. They penalize social media platforms and others who have false and misleading content, who cause children to be exposed to predators. And they fine those platforms heavily based upon the amount of revenue that they do in their countries. They've already fined several of them almost $1 billion. That creates deterrence. Why shouldn't social media be responsible for the content on their platforms? Why should we have to worry about our privacy? And worse, worry about who's going to hire us, what information are they going to see, how much of our medical history is known to everyone, and what predictive usages and what predictive methodologies are they using to control our lives further. Somebody said to me, when you debate God, you're debating whether or not you have free will. Well, I wonder, how much free will do we really have? How many choices are really there for us to make? If it's up to a lot of the governors and legislators, you're not going to have much free will. When people are banning books, where they're interfering in our mental and physical health, when they're telling us who we can sleep with once again, as if we were back 50 years ago, and who we can talk to and who we can associate with, where is our free will? I think there is a disconnect when 78% of the country says they'd like to see women's reproductive rights a right, when they'd like to see less hatred and less violence, and they want to see real gun safety in effect. How do we get it when we vote in legislators who really only care about the top 1/100th of 1%, whether they're corporate power or they're individual billionaires? We, the people, don't seem to have any choices. Our vote's been marginalized, and if it was up to me, we'd be getting experts into our state government, local government, and federal government. Those think tanks that we used to have, they're necessary. Folks with smarts are now necessary in government. We have not only algorithms to contend with, but we've got generative AI that can reproduce all of us and make us expendable. And you won't know if I'm really speaking to you or some bot is imitating me exactly. So I think, we've come a long way when it comes to technology. In people, we're the same. They came up with a story on people having been found to kiss thousands of years before they thought people embraced each other. Well, I don't know. That's archaeology for you. When they wrote the Bible, they said, and he knew her. Well, he didn't get to know her without having embraced somebody. So, have we come a long way? In some instances. But I think we've got a long way to go. And it seems to me we got to have a Congress that's ready to deal with the new fusion technology, that's ready to convert steel using hydrogen and not producing CO2. We know we can get rid of a lot of the CO2. We just know that it means we've got to change our lifestyle. Well, the way to stay young, I'm finding out, or to be vital, is to constantly learn and constantly change and constantly push limits. Not where you're not understanding yourself and your body, but expanding what you know and what you think. That's the only way to progress and stay alive and be vital. And that's another thing a lot of state governments are not providing. Really great education. It's a crime if nobody's got an education that's above 8th grade. So we got problems to solve. They are indeed solvable. But we need to be analytical. We need to have leaders who realize that the intellect is really important. And we can't really rely so much on folks who are career politicians and don't keep up with the latest technology and don't want to pass legislation that makes our lives better. Let's put some choices back in all our lives and choose what will give us the longest life and the most happiness or contentment. God bless you and have a lovely day.